All right, moving right along with NFL 2025 team previews. We got the Atlanta Falcons. Interesting team with a lot of unknowns. They were looking good the first half of last season, sitting at 6-3. Then all of a sudden, Kirk Cousins just spiraled out of control. I think Cousins was playing hurt the last 5 or 6 weeks. Either that or his arm just went out on him. One touchdown, 9 INTs in Cousins' last 5 starts last year. Worst quarterback from week 10 on based on EPA per dropback. Michael Penix Jr. took over the last 3 games of the season. He did enough to secure the job as starter this year. Now they're basically paying Cousins a ton of money to carry a clipboard on the sideline. If Penix can play up to expectations, the Falcons' schedule is definitely easy enough for them to win 10 games, which would also very likely be enough for them to win the division. But I don't think they even need Penix to be much more than a game manager. Check out this stretch of games starting in October, like around week 8. Dolphins, Patriots, Colts, Panthers, Saints, Jets, Seattle. It's the easiest 7-game stretch of a schedule for any team this year. I have the Falcons favored in 6 of those 7 games, so any idea of betting their under win total is out the window for me just based on that stretch of games alone. They have a week 5 bye, which is the earliest possible bye week. I kind of prefer teams to have later bye weeks. But overall this year, I have the Falcons playing the 4th overall easiest strength of schedule. They play 6 teams who I have rated in the bottom 8 in the league. They'll play a ton of coin flip games too. 11 games with a point spread between the threes. One thing I always look at with indoor dome teams is their road game environment. You don't want to back a dome team who's playing a lot of outdoor bad weather games, but the Falcons have it really good here. Week 13 versus the Jets is the only outdoor game that has potential for cold weather. Falcons play 12 indoor games, which is the second most in the league. Before last season started, the Falcons were projected to play a top 3 easiest strength of schedule. It ended up being a much tougher schedule because they faced a lot of teams that exceeded expectations. Falcons' opponents last year combined won 20 more games than their expected win totals. That was the most of any team. Falcons returned 10 of their 11 starters on offense, but the one change is pretty significant, losing center Ryan Dahlman to the Bears. He's rated inside Pro Football Focus's top 5 centers over the last 2 years. He's being replaced by third-year guy Ryan Neuzil, who played 500 snaps last year and rated out in the bottom 3 rated centers. And now, as far as skill position players, they aren't very deep here. After Bijan Robb and then Drake London, which, by the way, I love Drake London this year in fantasy. In the 3 games Penix started last year, he targeted London 40 times, and London averaged 117 yards per game. I think he could have a monster year, especially when you look at his week-to-week matchups. He's going to get 9 opponents who finished in the bottom 10 in pass EPA per play last year. I'm going to talk more about London in my awards future bets video I'm doing. Can we call Kyle Pitts a bust yet? I don't know. I'm going to give him another year here to see what he does with Penix, but we'll see about that. On the defense, they have a lot of changes. They lost their veteran leader, Grady Jarrett. They lost Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons. They're both gone. They drafted 2 SEC edge rushers in the first round, Jalon Walker from Georgia and then James Pierce from Tennessee. Which they desperately needed after getting 0 pass rush last year. Atlanta finished ranked 2nd worst in both pressure rate and sacks. Veteran defensive coordinator Jeff Albrecht should help change this too with a more aggressive pressure-style defense. Looking at the Falcons last year, I can't help to think how many wins they could have had if not for unforced errors. Overall, they were -6 in turnover differential, which doesn't seem like a season-breaking number, but the timing and situation of these turnovers were just absolute killers. They committed 14 turnovers in the second half of 1-score games. That's the most of any team. Kirk Cousins had the most INTs in the final 2 minutes of games and was pretty much the single biggest reason why they missed the playoffs. Despite the poorly timed turnovers, the offense was well above league average. They outgained 13 of their 17 opponents on yards per play and had the fewest 3-and-outs of any team. What's weird, too, is the Falcons were almost a top 10 defense on early downs, which is just, first and second downs, but they ranked dead last on EPA per play allowed on late downs, third and fourth down. Um, they allowed the highest touchdown percentage on third and fourth downs. I can't figure out why such a big difference in early down defense. Um, I guess maybe it's like the lack of pass rush on those obvious passing downs on third and fourth down. I don't know. You don't usually see like that big of a disparity between early and late down defense. Another interesting thing worth noting is special teams. The opposing field goal kickers the Falcons played combined only missed a single field goal against them last year. They went 31 out of 32, which includes an incredible 11 for 11 on 50-plus yarders. And what makes that worse is how bad Atlanta was in the kicking game. Second worst field goal percentage at 70%. That alone was a huge point differential just in field goal kicking. I think there's more upside than downside with this Falcons team, and actually think it's more likely that they end up being a playoff team than it is them like winning 7 games or less. Falcons just always seem to find a way to get to 8 wins, even with like weaker rosters than they have now. But on the other hand, they haven't made the playoffs since the legendary 28-3 game in the Super Bowl. I think a big part of how Atlanta finishes this year depends on how you think teams in their division, like the Panthers and Saints, are going to do. If you think they improve a lot or not at all, kind of depends on them. But as for now, I'm siding with Atlanta over wins, yes, playoffs, and possibly NFC South division winners. I'm going to stop here. Be on the lookout for the Ravens up next. And until then, good luck with your bet.